Okay, we are live now, and all our speakers are here, so we can start. Okay, my name is Elom Atakli from the Gender Center for Empowering Development, GENCED, in Ghana, which is a women's rights organization here in Ghana. GENCED is also a member of the Girls Advocacy Alliance that works in the thematic areas of GBV, economic exclusion of women, and the commercial sexual exploitation of children. As you know, several CSOs and several organizations around the world have had to adapt and change their programming in response to the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide. And this webinar will form part of activities that the GAA is lining up to address the issue of GBV and economic exclusion, and then the overall effects of COVID-19 on women and girls here in the West African sub-region. As such, today, 30th June, the West African sub-region has over 74,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus, with over 42,000 recoveries and then 1,294 deaths. Nigeria and Ghana lead overall with over 25,000 and over 17,000 cases, respectively, while the Gambia has the least confirmed cases. In order to do justice to this discussion, I have with me here the General Secretary of WACSOF, who is Dr. Komlan Messi. WACSOF stands for the West African Civil Society Forum. I also have with me here Ms. Abiodun Esiet, who is the Special Advisor to the AMAC Chair on Civil Societies, Women's and CS organizations. I have here Ms. Lalaturi, who is the Women's Affairs Officer at the National Truth and Reconciliation and Reparations Commission in the Gambia. I also have with me, okay, thank you, Mr. Komlan Messi, sorry. And then I also have with me here Mr. Matthew Kale, who is the Head of Programs at yourself. But overall, they'll give us a proper introduction of themselves as we delve into the discussion. So before we delve into the discussion, I would like to have, if you can give us a brief overview of the coronavirus pandemic in your various countries. And Mr. Komlan Messi, since you work with a regional organization, if we can have a regional perspective with regards to the effects of the pandemic and the regional situation of the pandemic. As before you give us those briefs, if you can also properly and thoroughly introduce yourself and then give us a brief of the coronavirus pandemic in your various countries. Mr. Messi, let's start with you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, William. Thank you very much for the invitation from GENCED. We are, as WACSOF, we are grateful to be invited in a great event like this. So thank you very much for associating WACSOF in this. WACSOF, I would like to take a few seconds to tell people what WACSOF is. It is West African Civil Society Forum. It is the umbrella of all the civil society organizations in West Africa. It was created by ECOWAS, and other civil society organizations in 2003, and it's based in Abuja. So we cover all the 15 countries of West Africa. So to answer your question, this COVID-19 crisis it has different phases, and we will focus today on what exactly the impact is, and on women and girls, and not only the impact, but we'll talk about solutions and what are the perspectives we can see there. So in terms of impact, do you want me to talk about the impact right now?
I would like for you to give us a brief overview of the situation in the sub-region and then the country you are coming from. What are your cases, the recovery, the present situation?
Okay, good. The kind of overview in the region, we can see that different countries, this crisis is an unannounced. This crisis is an announced crisis, so it's a kind of a surprise for everybody, and we have to commend different countries that are doing their best to protect their citizens. Nevertheless, there are some differences from a country to country. Some countries are better organized than others, but we're going to be positive in terms of what is happening. But as far as impact is concerned, we can see that there are, a lot of economic impact. This crisis is not only a health crisis or sanitary crisis, but it's also social and economic crisis. That means that specifically for women and girls, the level of poverty has increased due to this crisis because we know that our economies in West Africa are in the informal sector, most of them. So people go to market to sell their product day after day. So since the lockdown happened, in many countries, all those people who go every day to do their business, they are affected, so they cannot do their business. So, and also the prices of the product has increased. So they don't have revenue, they don't have, the prices were skyrocketing. So that has kind of double impact. And that increases the level of poverty in the region. If we see countries, many countries, the level of poverty has increased, especially on women and also on girls. That is economic wise. The other one is the education. With the lockdown, schools are closed, universities are closed, and people no longer have access to education. And even if there is online education, it is limited because not everybody has access to internet, and even internet, but good quality internet. So that is another one. Education has been impacted on women and on girls. Another one is human rights side. On human rights, we've seen increased human rights violation from the police and military, or all the armed force. Those people, citizens have been definitely, they have been impacted, negatively by the police armed force, and that is not necessarily good. It's not good at all. And we've seen violence, also domestic violence, and violence against, gender-based violence, violence against women, and also violence against girls. And because of the lockdown, people are in their houses, and the level of stress and anxiety has increased. And then the violence also increased. The level of raping also, the rate of raping has increased, unfortunately. So those are the different impacts we've seen. It is not all that I just mentioned, but those are some examples of impact we've seen in the region. This is common to all the countries. Maybe it is bigger in some countries than in other countries, but definitely that is what we've seen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your intervention, Mr. Komlan. Let me move to you, Lala, because your county seems to have or has the lowest cases in West Africa. So if you can introduce yourself and then give us a brief overview of the situation in the Gambia. Lala, if you can unmute your mic, we can't hear you. Your mic is off.
I can hear you.
About that. Thank you very much, Ilum. I am really glad to be here. And my name is Lala Ture. I work for the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission for the Gambia, which is leading the truth-seeking process in the Gambia as we are transitioning from a dictatorship to a democratic dispensation. And I am also a civil society and women's rights activist. I work with the Gender Center for Empowering Development in the Gambia. Back to your question, the Gambia, we've not really had a lot of cases in the Gambia since we registered our first case in March, but we've seen that recently there has been an increase in the recorded number of positive cases that we've been having due to the porous border controls that we have between the Gambia and Senegal. Most of our cases that we've been having are due to the fact that people are still traveling from Senegal to the Gambia, despite of the closure of the borders by the government of the Gambia. But it is still under control, and there was a declaration of a state of public emergency by the president. But this has not been very effective because people are still going about their daily businesses. People are not practicing social distancing in the Gambia, and people are not going by some of the regulations that were put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the Gambia. So at this point, this is the stage we are at right now. And I do understand that government is working really, is putting in good efforts through its Ministry of Health, and they're also working in partnership with civil society to help curb the spread. When it comes to women, the COVID-19, especially after the declaration of the state of public emergency, has had a huge impact, or has affected women and girls a lot in this country. A lot of women in this country get their income through petty trade, through remittances, which they get sent to them by their family members abroad, through uh, um, small scale businesses. So all of these businesses have been largely affected due to the lockdown, and a lot of them do not have the remittances that they used to have before sent to them by their family members and friends abroad. So this has highly affected the economic growth of women in the Gambia. And also with the declaration of the first state of public emergency in the Gambia, the markets were locked down, not not throughout the day, but they were only allowed to open within hours. So you realize a lot of these women who are into petty trading and small scale businesses did not have the space to be able to sell their produce. So this affected them a lot. And today, as I am speaking to you, the Ministry of Women's Affairs in the Gambia is launching the it's launching a hotline for sexual and gender-based violence victims to be able to call and report their cases, and they're doing this in partnership with UNFPA and the UNDP in the Gambia. So we've realized that, well, there has not been any studies to show if there has been an increase of the number of sexual and gender-based violence in the Gambia like other African countries since the COVID-19 crisis started. But the government, the Ministry of Women's Affairs, civil society organizations, and the UN system, they're working together to make sure that if there is an increase, there are mechanisms put in place to help women during these trying times.
Thank you very much, Lala. Ms. Esiet Abiodun, if you can put on your mic and then let us know the overall situation in Nigeria and introduce yourself to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Helena. So I'm Abiodun Esiet. I'm the president of African Young Female Advisors Initiative. It's an initiative we created for special advisors and other media heads of elected and appointed government officials to promote their platform and see how they can boost their capacity and develop themselves economically, potentially, politically, and socially. So I'm also the special advisor to Abuja Municipal Area Council chairman, who is the mayor of the Federal Capital City of Nigeria. I'm a gender activist and also a feminist. So for us in Nigeria, the overall update for COVID-19, we've been having an increased number of cases recently since the lockdown was relaxed, and we are over 20,000 cases right now. And there have been community spread that have started within the communities, and people are not really paying attention to some of the precautionary measures set aside by the disease control of the government. And people are now taking a whole lot of issues on their home by not obeying the laws and not putting on face masks when they go outside. So for us, we've relaxed the lockdown, and we've given the permission for schools to open, but for only pupils that are in the final year that are working towards another new set. Those are the people that are allowed to come back to school. And for the higher institutions that are still on lockdown, the president just opened the interstate border so people can move from one state to another. Before now, the interstate border was closed, but now it has been opened gradually for people to move around and perform their services. So majorly, it has been a community spread, and we're doing more sensitization at the community level for people to identify some of these measures that need to be put in place and how they should conduct themselves in the public space. And this has been a major fear for us to really open schools fully, because we don't know how people will really fulfill some of these precautionary measures. So just a few set of students that have been allowed to come back to school based on their final year, and others are still at home. So on the effect of COVID-19 on women and girls, it has been a high increase of gender-based violence in our communities since the lockdown started and the increase in the lockdown measures due to COVID-19. A lot of cases of gender-based violence have been recorded. We've seen high cases of rape and sexual abuse, also other gender-based violence, emotional abuse, emotional torture and all that, eviction from houses, and so many other things that are related to GBV have been on the high increase. And the civil society is also working with government to really respond to some of these cases, and also set up a call center to address some of these cases, and also a shelter home to receive people who are victims and who really need to be rescued from their homes. And we found that rescuing people from their homes was difficult because of the lockdown. There was curfew around the late hours of the night, so it was very difficult for us to rescue people. So we had to really appeal to the task force agency managing the response of COVID-19 to relax some of the measures for some of the social workers going about carrying their services. So it has been an increase in violence, and also because most of our women and most of our workers are informal workers, they've been finding it difficult to do their job with this COVID-19 measure, because number one, they were not digitally skilled as necessary. So most of our medium and small scale industries or enterprises are not really digitally organized in a way to carry out their work during the COVID-19 pandemic. So they are learning it the hard way to really sell their services in a digital way and also continue what they're doing. But it has been very difficult for them to get back on their feet after the lockdown. But the government is also making some palliative measures for small and medium scale enterprise to be able to receive loans without collateral to start up their business and also recover from the effects of COVID-19. As a government that is depending on oil, most of our federal allocation to other states has been reduced because we're not selling oil and we're not able to generate enough tax as we usually generate because businesses are closed. It was only the porters that were functioning, the medical appliances and all that, food, and we're not generating enough revenue. So the federal allocation and revenue became low in the last 2 months, and governments were not able to pay enough salary for some of their staffs because we didn't get enough revenue. So that's some of the challenges we've been facing lately. And we also realized that there has been an increase in drug abuse. Most of our youths are now taking more of the hard drugs within the community just as a way to really buy away time, and they are within their peers and they're learning one habit or the other or frustrated with the effect of COVID-19 and all that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abiodun, for your intervention. Matthew, you have the floor. Matthew, you have the floor if you can hear me.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, so thank you very much for providing this opportunity for me to participate. Firstly, my name is Matthew Carley, and I work for the Youth Coalition for Education in Liberia. And UCL is a youth agency that focuses on empowerment. Basically, we are into education. And fast forward, we are also a member of the National Civil Society Council of Liberia, and we are also part of the COVID-19 task force in Liberia. So currently we have 780 cases, confirmed cases currently, and we also have 349 recovery. But there are other issues that is currently unfolding. We don't have a partial lockdown. So what we have right now is a curfew. We still have the imposition of curfew, and we still have the state of emergency. We also have the state of emergency. So in the midst of all of these things that's happening, the government have been able to reopen schools. the school has been reopened specifically for secondary school students, most especially those students that are in the senior classes who are completing their final year. They have been able to go back to school so they can also be able to sit the WAS, the West African Students Examination Council test. So they began school yesterday. And also the government also reopened our national airport. So we have our national airport that is currently open. The ceremony took place yesterday. And one of the reasons why the government decided to reopen the airport was to get resources and revenue, because the government actually have been very struggling when it comes to generating revenue to service some of those obligations that they have to. So beyond that point, the government also launched a stimulus package for vulnerable populations. So what we have been able to do is to make some intervention into that stimulus package, that the stimulus package, based on the assessment, will be able to capture cases, will be able to capture issues of violence against young women and girls. So what we did was, when the enumerators go in the field to collect the data, what we normally tell them is that there's a component on the data form that will fill all information on issues around gender-based violence, issues around corporal punishment, also issues around child abuse and domestic violence. And currently there is an increase in sexual and gender-based violence, but most of those cases are definitely reported by the media. Service that are reported by the media. All across the country, civil society have been strangulated due to this inter-country border migration. So the inter-country border migration is one of the key issues that we are faced with, because pregnant mothers have been strangulated along the borderland between both counties. They are not being able to move from county to the other, only because they are being curved into the carefree hours. So these are also issues that we are faced with. Another issue that we also face with is the issue of the work sector, the water, sanitation, and hygiene sector. It's another key issue that affects young women and girls, because the country is situated in the environment where not all of the homes in the urban area even have access to broadband water. So mothers will definitely send their girl children in the evening hour to go and fetch water. And on their way back, they have been stopped by police officers, they have been stopped by joint security, only because they have been able to violate the carefree period. So these are some of the issues that we are faced with. And fast forward, what successfully we have been able to do is to allow the task force that are responsible for the stimulus package, because they have been given passes to go across the country with unhindered access. So they are the one reporting those cases of domestic violence. And some of those information that we have gotten from the data is that domestic violence is also on the increase apart from sexual and gender-based violence, because sexual and gender-based violence is widely reported by the media. But the domestic violence issue are those issues that have been reported by our enumerators. Those enumerators that are collecting data for the stimulus package are the ones who are reporting to us back through the data that domestic violence is also an increase. And also another issue that people are faced with is access to healthcare. So currently we have a very big referral hospital in the rural part of the country. That referral hospital has been closed only because 25 health workers have been infected with the virus, and 3 doctors are also being infected with the virus. So based on that, the government was able to close that health center. So it's also affecting the issue of access to healthcare in that particular area of the country. So these are some of the issues that we are faced with, and these are some of the issues that have been faced with by young women and girls on the impact of COVID-19. And on the economic front, there are serious issues when it comes to incomes. Many of the mothers, they are all single mothers, and many of them are vulnerable. They are using their little income to feed their family. And the issue of resuscitating their businesses is also one of the issues that is hampering their livelihood. And the imposition of the care fee is also another issue that affects young women and girls in the country. I will stop here and I will move along to provide more information.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you very much for intervention. I have noticed or I observed in your various interventions, particularly for Matthew and Abiodun, I noticed that when it comes to the fight against GBV, CSOs are largely spearheading the fight. And CSOs are the ones that are highlighting the effects of GBV and the issue of GBV as a whole in the response to COVID-19. So I would like to ask, why has there been a neglect by our national government when it comes to the issues of women and girls in the overall national response? I'll start with Abiodun.
Okay, thank you. So for us, initially when we started the issue of the lockdown, the government didn't consider social services as the essential services that needs to be taken into consideration while the lockdown is being on, until the civil society called the attention of the government on the high increase in the episode of GBV. So the president now recognized that there's a high increase and for different measures to be put in place by the government. So there are some national agency of the government like NAPTIP that are monitoring the implementation and prosecution of violence against women, and also some of our human rights commission were also on board to really monitor this implementation. Even the Nigerian police force also took their own proper measures in place to mitigate some of the effects of this COVID-19 on women and girls. So they even sent a memo and a resolution from their own end, according to the Gender Union Department, on what is happening and what they're doing as a police force to mitigate against this effect. It got so rapid and that, you know, women are being raped and are killed and at separate places like church, mosques, and, you know, it started raising a whole lot of tension within the system. So all the different levels of government, frontliners that were monitoring and maintaining, overseeing the issues around GBV were called into action to take proper measures in place and coordinate some of these activities. So the police force was working with the Human Rights Commission and also our national agency on protection, on NAPTIP, our national agency protecting against this violence. So all of there was a joint force to mitigate this effect. And also they now recognize that the need for us to create more shelter within our community center to address some of these things. So CSO also came in line to support what the government was doing. So, but the government took the lead and coordinated the whole response on GBV in Nigeria. And we are really doing well in seeing how we can mainstream some of these affairs, some of these issues into all different levels of government so that people at the local level, at the state level can take lead in ensuring that, you know, GBV are also well addressed. And one of the important things we did in Nigeria was to advocate for the passage of Violence Against Person Act. This is a bill that was passed into law 2015 in Nigeria by the federal government, and we started advocating for more states to domesticate this bill. So at the height of the incident of this pandemic of the gender-based violence, the government took it upon themselves to advocate to all the state government to implement the Violence Against Person Act. And in this act, it stated some of the measures that was put in place to address issues around rape, around eviction. About 20 of these different acts was addressed in this law. So we advocated up to and within few weeks of starting this advocacy, about 12 other states joined the initial state that has passed this law to pass this law in their states to address some of the issues of GBV. So more of advocacy is more of joint work from different agencies or parastatal managing the issue of GBV in Nigeria. So it has been a joint task force on that, and the government has also been in the forefront of it, and also members of parliament in different levels of government have also been in the forefront of this to implement laws and policies that will address GBV in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Abiodun. Lala, I would also like to ask, have national responses in your country also prioritized women, or have they neglected women's issues? Thank you. Lala, if you can hear me.
Thank you, Ilo.
Yeah.
On a national level, our government has really not done much in prioritizing the protection and promotion of the rights of women during the pandemic, during the lockdown. And on we have not really seen lawmakers take this seriously. There've been little or no effort from the side of the government, from the parliamentarians, from the cabinet, from the Ministry of Women Affairs. There's been little or no effort to try to create safe spaces for women, um, to protect women during the lockdown. Apart from the hotline, which is being launched today with the, by the Ministry of Women's Affairs in partnership with UNFPA, not much has been done since the COVID-19 lockdown started or the state of public emergency was declared in the Gambia to help women. Like I said before, most Gambian women depend on small-scale businesses and petty trades, and not much has been done by the government in this regard too. So in the national response and in the fight to cope COVID-19 in the Gambia, the government has not really prioritized protecting the rights of women in the Gambia. We've seen work done by civil society though, since the state of public emergency was declared by the president. We've seen civil society do a lot of awareness raising campaigns, both on social media and on the ground. We've seen civil society bring to light the stories and narrations of victims of sexual violence, not just in the Gambia, but in the West African region. And we've seen civil society also partnering up, doing more partnerships together to try to see how to possibly help women during the COVID-19 global pandemic and to help Gambian women. Not much has been done in the Gambia to help women at this very critical stage. I think everybody is just focused on the COVID-19 and how it, when it comes to sexual and reproductive health facilities, to how pregnant women have access to these facilities during the COVID-19 lockdown. That too, there's little been done by the Ministry of Health to help women have access to good health facilities, good sexual and reproductive health facilities for pregnant women, for women who are expecting, women who have to go to labor during the pandemic. So not much has been done, to be quite honest, on a national level for Gambian women during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you very much, Lala. Mr. Komlan, since the West Africa Civil Society Forum is the CSO arm of the ECOWAS sub-region, if you can tell us what has been the overall regional response by ECOWAS when it comes to the issues of women and girls and the effect the COVID-19 pandemic has on women and girls in the West African sub-region.
Okay, thank you for your question. As far as COVID-19 crisis is concerned, you know, ECOWAS has a health organization, a health agency, which is a regional health agency of ECOWAS based in Burkina Faso. So they coordinated they have been coordinating the health part of this COVID crisis. Now, as far as economic part is concerned, I know that ECOWAS has engaged with different countries, giving them some logistic help to, you know, when, for example, countries announce that they are helping citizens, there are many logistic side about it. And ECOWAS has supported different countries in that regard. And for also, ECOWAS went on the ground to help some citizens to distribute some food in different regions. I know in Nigeria, for example, they distributed things for girls in some regions in Nigeria. I don't remember for the other countries, but definitely there has been a lot of support from ECOWAS to directly to the countries to support them logistic-wise. And now, especially for the girls and women, recently ECOWAS issued the communique around about gender-based violence. So they definitely condemn that there is an action plan and also roadmap of ECOWAS to end child marriage or to end child marriage, which is part of all that we want to put as a legal framework to protect girls and women. So those are the different things that I've noticed as far as ECOWAS is concerned. But as a civil society organization in the region, we want to commend the dynamism of different civil society organizations in the different countries, they are on the ground to sensitize, to protect, to actively invite citizens to participate, and also to hold the government accountable. Holding government accountable, meaning, for example, when we see that there are some funding that are announced, how is the funds used? Citizens want to know. So government, we call on them to be transparent enough. Because sometimes if there is no transparency, the confidence of the citizen may be a little lower. So it is in the interest of the government to be transparent with the citizen, so citizens will believe them and follow what they are saying. So that's what I can say around the region, at a regional level.
Matthew, would like your intervention if your national response has included women or has neglected women in Liberia.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much. So initially, what has happened initially was the government initially saw the COVID-19 as an ownership, that they took ownership of the entire COVID-19. And we as civil society organization, we were telling them that let's all look at the lesson learned from Ebola, because Liberia experienced Ebola before. So we're telling them, go back and look at the lesson learned from Ebola and some of the best practices that we can bring to COVID-19. Because you cannot be the player and the referee at the same time. You need to have a twin model role. You cannot be a player and a referee at the same time. So we were telling them that the civil society platform should be the one driving the awareness component of the entire COVID-19. Because what we have experienced is that in terms of crisis communication management was another thing that was another bottleneck. Crisis communication management. Initially, there was so many conflicting information coming from the government. And to know you have the citizen were getting confused of what the government is telling them in terms of they accepting it and believing it become another problem. So it took the government close to 3 weeks for the government to redesign their communication, their risk communication strategy. So these are some of the things we're telling them. In terms of the effects of gender-based violence, these are some of the issues to be raising, because the government actually were only focusing around purity, around prevention. It was lately 2 months ago when the government put attention to sexual and gender-based violence. What has happened was we were telling them that it is important that you reactivate the hotline for sexual and gender violence cases to be reported. And through our intervention, the civil society intervention, they were able to reactivate the hotline. So these are some of the conversations we've been having, but on the overall, there has not been much attention given to sexual and gender violence, because the cases are just being reported by the media. In terms of action taking, there are limited action taking because the court across the country, all of the courts across the country are not open at the same time. So we are also telling the government that it is important at this time that all the courts across the country are open at the same time, so that those cases that can be transferred to the court for adjudication can be swiftly done. Because the perpetrator, if the perpetrator is not going through the process, the fair pathway is becoming an issue. Because if the perpetrator is still living in the community with the abuser or with the survivor, it also becomes a serious issue. So we are telling the government, even though that you can focus on the sexual and gender violence, but let's focus on the code. Then ensure that the code is, all of the codes across the country are open, so that the adjudication of GBV cases can be speedily tried.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Throughout the webinar, participants are free to ask questions in the chat box down there. You can address the questions specifically to one person or to all of them, and they'll answer the questions during the course of the webinar. I would like to ask, with regards to the issue of GBV, lockdowns have been lifted in Ghana, in Nigeria, but on social media, especially with Nigeria, I have noticed that there has been a spike in rapes and various other forms of gender-based violence against women in Nigeria. And Abiodun, I see that you are one of the lead advocates in the protest marches against rapes. If lockdowns are over now, why is there still a rise in GBV cases in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the rise and the awareness is the rise we are getting is because of the awareness, intense awareness on rape cases and GBV in Nigeria. So throughout the lockdown, most civil society, government officials have been raising awareness of the importance on the increase in rape or GBV. So it gave people courage to voice us and say, okay, when my husband slaps me, it's actually a violence. When he's emotionally torturing me, it's actually a violence. And same applies to the men. And so, okay, if my wife is also disturbing me, emotionally blackmailing me, it's also a violence. So now people are now speaking out and say, okay, actually what we're facing is actually a violence. And up to the extent that, you know, some, it's now been joined with criminal offense in the sense that people are now being raped and now murdered at sacred position. So people, the police are investigating why is this so, because it has happened in different geopolitical zones in Nigeria. Some said it's because of ritual, that people are using that to get virginities of women and use this for ritual purposes so that they can get money. So a whole lot of things, case studies going on, and a whole lot of investigation is going on for the increase in criminal offense in relation to the GBV. Why is there a spike in this rise? And it's also majorly for my own view, it's because of the increase in the awareness of people on social media, on radio, on traditional media. People are talking about it, and government is also empowering people. And one thing that happened for the first time, the police is also talking about restructuring the gender unit to address some of these issues. So, and that has been because of this rise in this pandemic. And we're also looking at the issue and the role of culture and religion and this that has made the opposite sex, who are the women, weaker in the sense that, you know, to tolerate so many things. Now, people are not allowed to go to the church, or people are not allowed to go to the mosque where they seek counseling or help. People are now forced to stay in their houses. But, you know, the lockdown has been relieved, but you can't congregate more than 50% of your capacity. So people are even scared of going to church and saying this. And, you know, the time you get to go to church has reduced. So people are now voicing out on social media and different platforms to say, okay, we are seeing this and we know this is not good. Some people are even reporting cases that has happened years before, because they now know it is against the law. They now know, okay, I can't continue hiding this. I can't continue to hold this thing because it's actually against the law. It's a violence and it's really making me to be in bondage. And that's it. And, you know, for the first time, we are also seeing men being violated, young boys being violated by their superior or religious leader recently, which has not been on the forefront of this campaign before. But because of the awareness and sensitization, more people are reporting cases of both men and women, and also boys and girls.
Thank you, Abiodun, for your intervention. Earlier on in your earlier submissions, all of you have mentioned the various effects on women. You've looked at education, you looked at economic, you've looked at the health aspects as well. Matthew, but I would like to ask, beyond the fact that girls do not get to go to school, there's a disruption in schooling life and all, what are the other effects of COVID-19 on education beyond girls losing education?
Yes. So another effect that we have noticed is the issue of information dissemination. You know, the government in March launched the Teaching by Radio program. And the Teaching by Radio program was only intended for students across the country to be tutored on some of those things that they learned before in the classroom. But some of the challenges that have been faced with the teaching by radio is accessibility. You know, you go part of the country in terms of coverage area, it's another serious issue. And also the timing for the teaching by radio. The timing for the teaching by radio is also another issue that parents across the country are faced with. And some of those things that they have been able to document is that the time the teaching by radio can be on, these are the time they can be on their farm. They can be on their farm, they can be doing some cultivation, and that is the same time the teaching by radio can be conducted. So one of the suggestions for proffer is that it will be good for the teaching by radio to be done in a way that their children can afford to listen, and they can also help their children along the line. But beyond that point, if you have the teaching by radio where they are on a farm and their children are with them, it becomes a serious challenge to allow the children to participate. So the challenge is access, accessibility. The teaching by radio program is another challenge in terms of accessibility. Another challenge that you also notice is the issue of digital application. You know, our country is a country in a way that accessibility to digital application in the rural part of the country is a serious challenge. And we have more than 2 million of our population who live in the rural part of the country. So if you have that number of people who are cut off in terms of digital education or digital application, it also becomes a challenge because technology in the rural part of the country, in some extent, in most extent, is not accessible. So these are some of the challenges they are faced when we come to the issues in education. And lastly, another challenge they are faced with in education is the ability for school going children to go to school and also are not in violation of a curfew period. Because right now, you know, the government are opening school for senior school students. So we were also saying that, for example, a student go to school and the student is on their way going home and they are caught up into the curfew hour. What happened in that scenario? What happened? Because we are witnessing some of the brutal situations from joint security, and we don't want for such a thing to occur. So these are some of the conversations we're having with stakeholders across the table. In that event, what happened if a student is caught up in a curfew period while going on their way back home? What happened in that event? So these are some of the conversations we're having.
Like you? Yeah, this is in a bad house.
Thank you, Matthew. And please, can we all have our microphones off with the exception of our speakers? Thank you. Because I'm getting a lot of feedback in the background. Thank you. Mr. Messi, one of the participants has a question for you. And his question is that, how can women and girls in the ECOWAS region win the battle against poverty in the era of COVID-19?
Okay, this is an excellent question. Thanks to the participant that I think is Blessing that asked that question. You know, poverty, it has different factors. And during this COVID-19, you know, business is not working because of the lockdown. If you have an enterprise to manage, it is difficult to manage that. I think first thing is on the possibility of women to have access to the economic palliative measures that the government have been put in place. Goods or different things have been distributed to the different citizens in different areas, in rural areas. So to have access to that, the methods are different from a country to countries. In Nigeria, for example, or in other countries, goods are being directly distributed to citizens. In other countries, they use mobile money, like in Togo, to send money to citizens that are in that meet some criteria. So it is for economic side. You know, the first thing is to be financially autonomous. But how to be financially autonomous when no business is working, when no activity is out there? So that is the first part, to have access to the economic palliative. Now, when after the COVID-19 crisis, after that, we need to open the market with the health priority in our mind. So this needs to be very cautiously planned and organized. And additional to that, women and citizens need to have a way to have their business, to run their business so they can create value. And how doing that? First of all, people who are in rural area, if they are in the farm sector or any agricultural sector, those products, they need market, they need some ways to sell their product. So to prioritize the business owned by women also, when they have, they can sell their goods and so and so. So that will be some ways to facilitate the battle or the fight against the poverty. It's a long-term challenge, and definitely it is on using and on working on those different parameters that we can win this battle.
Thank you very much, Dr. Komlan. Abiodun, in your earlier submissions, you talked about the provision of economic stimulus packages for various small business. I want to ask, how accessible are these stimulus packages to women in Nigeria, the ordinary woman in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much. So there are different levels of the stimulus packages that we have in Nigeria, managed by different government agency at the national level. So the humanitarian sector of the country has been doing a program for rural women where they given about 10,000 naira, 5,000 naira on a monthly basis to help their businesses. So during the lockdown, they had to pay some arrears and also increase what they were giving them. So the humanitarian sector department went down to the community level to discuss this in relation to the local governments of those communities. And that's one angle of it. Another level of stimulus is also palliative, sharing of palliative, which has foodstuffs that could last a family for about 4 weeks, was given to different communities by different state governments. So the federal government released the food to the 36 states to share to their communities, especially the vulnerable people. But what the challenges we had was defining who was vulnerable. Vulnerable initially, we meant indigent people, poor people, people who can afford their daily needs. But due to the lockdown, we realized that more people became more vulnerable. For instance, you have somebody who is an Uber driver who has been driving on that, depends on daily income, suddenly could not move around, suddenly could not do their businesses. So they became vulnerable suddenly. So, and we have some people who are legal professionals, lawyers, who goes to court on charge and bail basis, who depend on daily income, later becoming vulnerable suddenly. So we had more people falling into the class of people that really needs and palliative measures from the government, and we had to really devise means and also call the attention of some of the civil society organizations to help support some of these communities. So we have Action Aid Nigeria that came into play to help our local governments here to reach out to some of the hard to reach communities by giving them palliative and also helping them with 1 or 2 stimulus packages. So another level of the stimulus packages from our central bank, which was specifically meant for people who have small and medium scale businesses, that the businesses have been affected due to COVID-19. So they can access loans without any collateral from the government, and they can even be able to access up to 100 million naira to be able to put in their businesses and recover from the effect of COVID-19. So all these measures have been put in place, and for medium scale businesses who have more than 25%, 25 million returns as to pay about maybe 10% profits on any loan collected from the federal government. So there are different levels of these stimulus packages. Specifically, another one was on NISRA for people who are farmers. There are other loans that have been set aside for them to be able to harness and use it to help their businesses, and also loan for farmers to be able to access more land and also buy some farm material that will help to improve their productivity this year, because due to COVID-19, so many things have affected farmers for even going to their farm because of security issues and because of different change in climate. So the government has taken measures in place to really address that by setting aside another different stimulus package for farmers. So we have that kind of, packages at different levels, and also some of these packages are also managed by the state government for them to really release down to members of their constituency. And local governments also rely on some of the national agencies that are giving out the stimulus package to organize their informal workers to be able to access some of these packages. Because before the Central Bank of Nigeria gives you this loan, they're expected that you must have taken some training and to be able to be satisfied to be able to access the loan, so that you do have proper documentation towards that. And the government at the local level is doing its best to organize the informal workers to be able to access this loan in form of cooperative, and also to train them on how to manage the loans. Thank you.
Lala, I would like to ask, currently, what is the government of Gambia also doing with regards to the economic empowerment of women during this time of COVID? If you can hear me.
Thank you, Ilo. Like I said before, not much has been done by the government of the Gambia to help women during these trying times, not economically and not equally to help women who are victims of sexual and gender-based violence, and all help women have access to sexual and reproductive health facilities. What we've seen that the Ministry of Women's Affairs has done is to help women who come from vulnerable families or who can't, under normal circumstances, be able to provide food for their family. What they've done is they came up with a food relief package, which they distributed to some women, I believe, in the North Bank region of the Gambia, and also in the Central River region of the Gambia, I believe. But this was just to a limited number of women. However, we've seen civil society and Gambian philanthropists come together and join efforts, put in collective efforts to help families. Most of the beneficiaries from these food donation drives that were done by civil society and Gambian philanthropists were mostly women. And we've seen women's rights activists like Jaha Dukre also lead a food relief campaign only for Gambian women who really needed the help at the time, because they come from vulnerable and very, very poor regions in the Gambia. But to sum it all up, that is the only thing that I've seen that was done by the government through its Ministry of Women's Affairs to help women during these trying times economically. But apart from that, not much has been done by the government to help women. Yeah.
And Matthew, what about Liberia? What has been the focus when it comes to the economic empowerment of women in Liberia during COVID?
Well, hello again. Like I said, much has not been delivered. So what the government have been focusing on mainly is the stimulus package for vulnerable population. And again, we've been asking the same questions: who are those vulnerable people under the framework of vulnerability? So initially, the government had a little over 1 million people in their systems. So the civil society were able to engage the government to increase that number to 2.5 million people. So currently, there will be 2.5 million people that will also be benefiting from the stimulus package. But beyond that point, the government also is proposing a loan, a saving loan for market women and small and medium enterprises, including agriculture, including people in the agriculture sector. But the legislature, our parliament, has been able to transfer that proposal to the 2020-2021 budget. So that alone tells that mothers will not benefit from that initiative this year, but they will definitely benefit from it next year, probably, or in any part of this year by November, because the budget will definitely pass in November. So in November, when we pass a new fiscal budget, mothers and business mothers, and also people in the agriculture sector, also working with small and medium enterprises, will definitely benefit from the loan. But we are also very key on accountability. So what we have been able to do, apart from the loan process that will be in progress, we are now seeing how we can track those funding that have been provided by donors to the government for COVID-19 response. So we set up a framework, and that framework has been approved. So we will now begin the process of tracking those funding, because we don't want for what happened during the Ebola. During the Ebola, we witnessed a report where there were massive flooding in the report. A lot of people allegedly were able to embezzle Ebola funds. So right now we are already finalized the tools that will be able to track all of those resources that is then provided to the government by donors, and even those revenue that the government is collecting also using for COVID-19 purposes. Thank you, but these are the intervention the government is doing, most especially with the stimulus package of food. But with loan issue, they have also transferred that to the foreign budget period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In your various submissions on the various national responses that your various governments have undertaken, there appears to be several gaps when it comes to response specific to women. So as members of various organizations and with people with positions in your individual capacities, what solutions and responses would you suggest, or what solutions and responses do you think our national government should prioritize when it comes to the response against the COVID pandemic, when it comes to the issues of
Yes. Hello.
women and girls? Dr.
Okay.
Mr. Komlan, Mr. Komlan. I'm starting with Mr. Komlan.
Okay,
Yes.
I think that you know the different measures. Could you repeat your question again? Sorry, please.
I was saying that from your various submissions, it appears that there are several gaps when it comes to addressing the impact of COVID-19 on women and girls. So what solutions and responses and type of responses would you prescribe to national governments?
Okay. You know, we've seen different approaches. Depends on the different governments or the different states in the region. We saw countries being very efficient in communicating regularly with the citizen. For example, in Ghana, we saw many communication. Citizens need to be updated, okay, constantly, continuously on what is going on, what they can get as far as government measures are concerned. Now, in terms of solution, the economic palliative need to continue because the lockdown has not been totally eased yet in all the countries. The economic palliative need to continue, I mean economic stimulus. And now it is also time to prepare the after COVID. That after COVID needs to come with economic package to people who, first of all, are vulnerable, you know, in rural areas, in order for them to cope with this crisis and the impact of this crisis. Distribution of sanitary things or health-related package that will help people to get protected. And not only that, governments need to support the small and medium businesses. People who own business need to pay their staff, and if they don't do business or if they don't sell, they cannot pay any staff. So that will end up in staff being laid off and so and so. So that is another crisis. So we have different things that the government can do. The stimulus, the economic stimulus to the small and medium business. How can they do that? They can actually reserve some of their market, you know, construction or supplying of goods and so and so. They can reserve that to the citizen. Citizens who have their legitimate business, they can be prioritized in the government's different public markets. That is one. The other one is also to make sure that on education, we help people to increase their profile or to update their profile, to add more qualification to their profile so they will adapt to the new economy. Why am I telling that? Because this crisis brings another a kind of game changer, a kind of paradigm changement. So people who are not qualified to do some kind of work like remote working need to be upgraded, need to upgrade their profile. So that is one thing. Another thing is also for government to open, you know, our region needs to be more open. Currently, it is not normal that our countries do business more with Europe and or with different countries than within ourselves in ECOWAS region. So, you know, we have ECOWAS protocol of free movement, and that free movement protocol need to be clearly implemented. So when we say clearly implemented, that means that you know, doing trade between the country, among our countries, a Ghana citizen can go to Senegal to do business, and vice versa. That has to be stimulated. And so it is the responsibility of ECOWAS and all the state members to stimulate that. When I say stimulate that, to be really concrete, not just on conferences or so and so, to clearly talk to the citizen, to help the citizen to remove all those unwritten barriers that are currently refraining people to exchange, to trade among West Africa. Currently, the West African region is doing only 15% of its trade in West Africa, which is not normal. We have to change that. And it takes citizens also to call on their respective governments to wake them up, to tell them they've signed this ECOWAS protocol of free movement needs to be fully implemented. And one more thing is that we're talking about single currency. You know, last year, ECOWAS head of state adopted the single currency ECO of as a way to go. We've seen that there are many manipulations, external manipulations, to refrain that thing that citizens are actually calling for. We're calling on the states, on the governments, and also on ECOWAS to take a clear leadership role to clearly implement that single currency, so that will encourage, that will stimulate the trade among in the region, in ECOWAS region. And because, you know, we're talking about, we recently hear about Francophone countries going alone or those things. ECOWAS needs to sit down with all the country members and make sure that they apply the roadmap they all adopted together, 15 countries together. So we're calling on them to clearly walk their talk, so citizens will be happy with them. And that is the only way we can see a more integrated region, to make sure that, you know, it is not normal that we are so dependent to external countries to do what we to eat, or to do our for our good, our basic goods. For example, our importation of rice from different countries is too high. We have the good, we have the knowledge, we have all the necessity, the natural resources here in West Africa to be autonomous. And so there is a time now to act, for action. We are calling on the region, ECOWAS, and all the countries to go to action, not to talk. We are tired of talking. We are now calling for action, and that needs to be implemented right now. And CSOs, civil society organizations, are ready to help, to facilitate whatever it takes, but now it's time for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Komlan. Matthew, so what should be the overall national and then regional response when it comes to addressing the effects of the coronavirus pandemic on women and girls in ECOWAS?
The first thing, head of states in ECOWAS also initiated a very good effort when they held the webinar summit, but they need to go beyond that webinar summit to take some concrete actions. In terms of trade, inter-country trade, and even West African trade, they need to open the borders, and so that people in the private sector, business people, can have the opportunity to now resuscitate their businesses.
Hello, Matthew.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. I was saying the overall national and regional response when it comes to women and girls. Women and girls specifically. I don't want us to generalize the issue. Thank you.
Okay. Can you repeat the questions again, Ellen?
Yeah, I was asking, what solutions would you prescribe to national governments and ECOWAS as a region when it comes to response for the coronavirus pandemic, when it comes to women and girls, the solutions that you prescribe at national level and regional level? Okay.
So basically at the national level, we are also recommending in terms of risk communication mechanism. So the government need to improve the risk communication mechanism, because if the government is providing conflicting information to the citizen, you find them very difficult to adhere to all of those health measures and protocol. And another thing that I would also recommend that is this compulsory wearing of face masks. You know, the compulsory wearing of face masks is something that in terms of regulations have been scaled down. So government in Africa need to ensure that citizens have a compulsory wearing of face masks, because health practitioners and also health experts have been able to tell that face mask or shield is also one of the ways that the prevention of the COVID-19 can be prevented. So citizens in West Africa and government need to ensure that all of the citizens adhere to the wearing of face masks. And lastly, the issues around the restrictions. So the government now need to consider reducing some of those restrictions, because we are in Africa, and I will tell you someone that lockdown is not something that is unique to Africa. Lockdown is not something that is unique to Africa. So government in Africa need to reduce the issue of lockdown, the issue of curfew need to be reduced. Then people should get adhered to the wearing of face masks and also shield so that they can transact the normal businesses.
May I add something, please?
Mr. Komlan.
Yes.
I hope your intervention is regards to women and girls.
Yes.
The two of you have been too general.
Yeah, okay.
I want specifically on women and girls.
That is what I would like to add to make to complete what I said before.
Okay.
If I may.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that to be concrete, the access to funding for women who are doing their business, access to funding is paramount. So when I say access to funding, sometimes there are some criteria that the banks put there just to refrain people to have access to funding. So women, they can the financial sector need to set a special funding for women. And ECOWAS, I know ECOWAS is open to those kind of things. So ECOWAS can facilitate those kind of things. So to facilitate access to funding for women who actually want to have more funding to improve their business and to move forward with their business. And at the borders, we know that many women have been are disturbed at the border level between the countries. For example, between Nigeria and Benin, or between Benin and Togo and Ghana, etc., etc. When women want to cross the borders, they don't feel safe most of the time. And we know that the trade between the countries, 70% of the trade in West Africa goes through the road from Lagos to Abidjan. And on that access, there is a lot of hurdles that women have to go through. So we want, and ECOWAS can secure, and also the different state members, the countries, can have a better protection for women on that road, especially at the border. So women can trade, can buy goods from Togo to Nigeria and vice versa, or from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire, etc. So those are two additional elements that I want to bring a solution, and that is easily implementable, and civil society organizations can help also on that level. Is it concrete enough?
Thank you very much, Mr. Komlan.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Lala, I would like to know your solutions and responses when it comes to the national response for women and girls in the region and at the national level.
Thank you, Ilom. I think on a national level, there should be much more should be done by the government. There has to be some kind of partnership between government and civil society. And we also need to see more from our lawmakers, from our National Assembly members, and see what there has to be some kind of coordination between civil society organizations fighting for the promotion and protection of the rights of women in influencing policies, government policies to protect women. And also, I believe our Ministry of Women's Affairs could have done more in helping women during these trying times economically, and also trying to address the issue of sexual and gender-based violence, which was already very, the number of which was high even before the COVID-19 pandemic and the declaration of the state of public emergency in the Gambia. but not much has been done about that, like I said earlier on. And at this point, a lot of women have to deal with living with abusive partners, and a lot of women have to deal with not being able to provide for themselves and having to lose the small scale businesses which they depended largely on to feed themselves and take care of their children. So we need to see, I think government needs to come up with some kind of initiatives to help women. Maybe I've had my colleagues from Nigeria and Liberia, I believe, mention loans that were that the government came up with to give women at these trying times. And I believe this is something that the government of the Gambia can do too, to help these women economically. At this part of the year is always very tough for a lot of people in the Gambia, particularly women, because it is the beginning of the rainy season, and a lot of women find it difficult to be able to sustain their families economically. So this is the time, with the addition of the coronavirus lockdown and all of that stuff, this is the time that a lot of women would need that help from the government. And also a lot of women have to deal with living with abusive partners, and at this point these are women who might not be able to leave their home. So something sort of like a shelter or a home that can by the Ministry of Women's Affairs or by the government in partnership with civil society, where women will be able to have access to safe spaces, and also be able to have access to psychosocial support after they have been abused or after they've been subjected to sexual or gender-based violence would be really helpful. And also, I think the Ministry of Health should prioritize helping women have access to sexual and reproductive health facilities, especially in the rural Gambia. Under normal circumstances, women in the Gambia who live in rural areas have to deal with having to be carried on donkey carts or motorcycles to have access to health facilities when they're going to labor. So it would be more difficult at this point for them with the whole coronavirus lockdown. So the Ministry of Health should prioritize and consider these women in whatever strategies they're putting in place. And on a regional level, I think there should be more partnerships, especially with civil society. For me personally, I don't think coming from the Gambia and seeing the little effort that our government has done to help women during these trying times, I believe the only hope for women at this point, especially in a country like the Gambia, would be civil society partnerships. So I would love to see Gambian civil society work closely with other civil society organizations in other countries, and also form partnerships and coordination of efforts to help women in the Gambia and other countries in the region.
Thank you very much, Lala. So we have a question from Facebook. One participant is asking that what are the potential for and the constraints of civil society NGO collaboration during health crises such as COVID-19? Matthew, let's start with you. If you heard the question. Hello, Matthew.
Yes, hello, I'm here. I'm trying to read the comment that you are referring to so I can respond.
Okay.
So can you read the comment again? Because I'm only seeing the comment from Blessing to Lada. Can you read that comment again?
The comment is from Facebook. So the comment is saying, what are the potential for? Yeah. What are the potential for and constraints of NGO collaboration during health crises such as COVID-19? The constraints when it comes to collaboration between NGOs.
Yes. So one of the constraints that CSOs or NGO face, for example, this whole issue of the distant conversation and webinar, virtual meeting, that's something that is unique to the NGO, the civil society sector in Africa. So most of you want to see the civil society organization having this kind of conversation when it's been sponsored by another donor, or they are having it only because they want to brainstorm. But in terms of building collaboration, it's a challenge that we are faced with in the civil society sector. And also the issues of sustainability. We also need to look at the issues of sustainability, because many of us who are in the civil society space, many of our organizations depend on donor funding. So and right now there is a huge donor fatigue during the space of COVID-19, and many of the donors are not supporting those civil society organizations. So you'll find out that some of those civil society organizations want to make some intervention, but they don't have the resources to make some intervention. So these are some of the bottlenecks that they are faced with, and even the resources that is available, there's a resource constraint because the resources that is available, some of them they don't have the criteria to meet out with the application to get the resources. So these are things that we are also telling the donor to also relax all of those restrictions in this kind of a difficult times, because you will not expect for a civil society organization in this difficult time to have all of those requirements at this time. So these are some of the bottlenecks, and these are some of the issues that civil society are faced with, and we are telling our partners to consider those things and see how we can look into the future. Because beyond COVID-19, we will definitely see a huge unemployment rate in Africa beyond COVID-19.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Lala, a participant has a question for you. So the question says, what will be the best advice you can give to the Gambian government in managing the border so that other countries can do same and reduce the risk of coronavirus?
The case of the Gambia and the issue of our borders, the Gambia is surrounded by Senegal on all three sides. So it's very difficult to completely stop people from coming into the Gambia from Senegal, because you realize there are villages in some regions of the Gambia. So these villages, half of the village would be in the Gambia and the other half would be in Senegal, or it would just be a walking distance from Senegal. So it will be extremely difficult to stop people from coming in, because you realize with the lockdown, with the closure of the borders, they are not coming in through the borders, they're coming in through the satellite community villages where that we share with Senegal. So I think we need to do more awareness raising to encourage people to do community policing, because when communities the communities to which people come into from Senegal realize that if they don't stop these people from coming into the Gambia from their side of the country, these are potential carriers of the coronavirus, and they might be able to infect these people. So I think for government and for civil society, it would help a lot if we do a lot of, because the narrative in the Gambia is a lot of people do not believe in the presence of the coronavirus in the Gambia. That is the fact. So a lot of people don't mind allowing people to come into the Gambia from Senegal through their part of the country. So if we do a lot of more awareness raising campaigns, if we talk to people about the bad effects of that the coronavirus has on our lives, not just health-wise, but the economy, the socio-economic part of it, and also talk to people about how they might be infected by the virus if they come in close contact with people who have it. I think that will help a little more, because then people would be careful about who they let into the Gambia from Senegal in their part of the country. And also I think more resources needs to be directed at controlling the border, because you realize that a lot of people who come into the Gambia from Senegal, they don't necessarily go through the borders, but they are not very far away from the borders. So I think a lot of resources needs to be put in place to make sure there is more control on our side of the border, and that we need to do more community policing to encourage people to take part in reporting people who come into the Gambia from Senegal and try to escape quarantine.
Thank you very much, Lala. So it's now 3:38 Ghana time and West Africa time. So we have about less than 20 minutes more.
Hello?
Ryan, hello. So I would like your last words on the topic of discussion so that we can close at 4 o'clock. Any last words? So let me start with you, Mr. Komlan.
Yeah, there was a background noise. Would you mind repeating the question, please?
I'm saying that it's now 3:39 Ghana and West African time. So we have less than 20 minutes for the webinar to end. So if you can have your last words on the topic of discussion before we close off at 4 o'clock.
Okay. I would like just to say that first of all, congratulations for organizing this this important event, and thanks to my colleague panelists. And what I would like to add is that you know, the impact of COVID on women and girls is every day it's an everyday work. We have to bear that in mind every day. So everything we do, every action we are doing, need to include the gender and the girl side of it. We need to mainstream, the gender and women, everything regarding girls and women in our day-to-day actions. So it is important. So it is not because there is a COVID that there should be a break for those kind of things. So it is also depends on the dynamism of different citizens in our region. So the civil society in every country need to be awake, needs to continue their agility, their dynamism, to hold the different governments accountable and ECOWAS accountable, because as someone say, nobody can be a player and a referee at a time. Citizens are the watchdog of the action of the government. And so we have to play our role. And playing our role, that means we shouldn't sleep. We should be, we should stand up and play our part of this thing. And so that means we need to remind all our parliamentarians, all our politicians, their responsibility, because sometimes after they are elected, they forget their citizens. We have to remind them that they are being elected for citizens, for the good and the well-being of citizens. And for doing that, CSOs can contribute positively to be more impactful on this fight against COVID, especially to protect women, to protect girls, and make sure that, we have ECOWAS child protection, child policy. There is an ECOWAS child policy. WACSOF has been working with different civil society organizations and also with ECOWAS to implement that. So this is also an opportunity to to bring that in action, to make sure that there is enough awareness on these policies that ECOWAS has in this region, and to put those things in work. So definitely we have to move forward and make sure that we are active in us. If citizens don't shake the things, if citizens don't hold the government accountable, we won't see any result, or we will see little result. So we call on citizens to play their role, to be active, dynamic, to be on the awareness side, not only to be aware of things, but to bring action. The economic palliative that we talked about, for women to have special funding, a fast track to have access to funding for women that hold business, the palliative measures, to facilitate that access to those palliative measures to women. We have to stop to work with all the different things that are being done to stop gender-based violence, all the things that are going on raping and all those things. We have to make sure that everything that has been that should be done, the law has to be enforced. Women need to be protected. Girls need to be protected. They need to have access, equal access to education and to funding. That education is the basic of everything. So we need to think about after COVID. We are currently in the crisis, but after COVID is just tomorrow. And we need to be prepared for that. And it is time for government to take action to have special support for women, special support for girls. And when women and girls are well supported, the whole world will be better. Thank you very much.
Mr. Komlan, for that wonderful intervention in your last words. Matthew, you have the floor.
Hello, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I also want to say a very big thank you to all of our participants and also to our co-panelists, Mr. Clamart, Lala, and Yabu. I want to say a big thank you for also joining this Zoom meeting. So quickly, there are a few recommendations that I have for our government, also for the region. At the regional level, I'm suggesting to head of state of the head of state of ECOWAS to ensure that the African Development Bank provide funding for small businesses across the continent, so that the African Development Bank should provide small businesses for vulnerable mothers, and also small and medium enterprises across the continent, and also to ensure that there is a balance in trade, to improve the trade sector, and also open the borders so that small businesses can have the opportunity to resuscitate their loans. And also at the National Fund, I'm also calling on the government to focus mainly on gender issues. We need to mainstream gender issues, and we need to put some priority to it, because prior to COVID, we had the same situation of increasing sexual and gender violence, and COVID are also worsening the situation. So we're asking the government to prioritize not just documenting the cases of DBV, but also ensuring that protection is provided to the survivor, and also that the perpetrator is also brought to justice, and the perpetrator can have a day in court. So these are some of the recommendations we are making to our government internalists. And also, we are also willing to help the government, because some of our background in the legal protection, the legal profession, and also issues of investigation. So we are willing to help the government as well in the issues of how we can adjudicate some of those cases at that level. And lastly, we are also recommending that the government should focus more on providing the support for the vulnerable population. The stimulus package should be rapidly adhered to, so that the 2.5 million population that they have earmarked can have the opportunity to that, and they can also be up to speed. And the reopening of school that they have just launched, the government needs to monitor the reopening of the school, because we are noticing that the health protocol and measures in some of those schools are not being implemented, so that those schools that have been reopened can ensure that all of those health measures and protocol are also implemented as well. So again, I want to say thank you, Ellen, for providing the opportunity. And lastly, we will also be organizing another webinar, specifically this time around with a member of the ECOWAS Parliament. So with the member, will also be reaching out to you to participate into that webinar with some member of the ECOWAS Parliament, and also the Secretary of the ECOWAS Parliament, to provide their own contribution towards the whole COVID-19 fight, and what individual member of the Parliament have been doing in the respective country, and looking at also the human rights issues that are also around the country. Thank you again, and thank you very much, Ellen. And thank you to our participants for also following. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. And we'll do so to honor your invitation during your webinar. Lala, your last words.
Thank you very much, Ilom, and to my co-panelists, all the other participants of our conversation. Like I said before, I'd like to see more partnership of civil society organizations in the region. I believe there's so much work that we can do, and so much that we can achieve with collective efforts and working together. And also, I would like to see a lot of more work done by governments, not just my government, but governments around in the West African region, to help women and girls, and to prioritize the needs of women and girls, and make sure the needs and the needs of every woman and girl is reflected in whatever national strategy is being made up by any government. I would like to thank Genset for coming up with such an initiative, and I'm looking forward to a new one.
Thank you very much, Lala, and thank you, Mr. Messi. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Lala, for honoring this invitation. This webinar is one in a series of several other interventions by Genset and partners such as yourself and the Girls Advocacy Alliance to address the issue of COVID-19 and its impact on women and girls. We thank you for being partners. And I'm glad that we have Mr. Messi here, since WACSOF is a civil society arm of the ECOWAS Parliament. So definitely all the recommendations and all the interventions would definitely be at the ECOWAS level. And it shows you that our work is not in vain, because definitely we have important partners in the process. I would like to thank everyone once again for coming, and I wish you all a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you.